This story is titled Dead Line. It seemed to me to be an ordinary day like any other. I had no warning of the extraordinary and terrifying events to come. Something should have felt strange or different about that day to mark it, but it didn't. I suppose every day seems ordinary until an event happens to ripple the patterns of life and change something irreparably. My workday at the office was annoying as usual, and I was glad to get home in the evening. Of course, the bus was late, so I didn't arrive until it was almost dark. I heard my cat Katie scrabbling with her claws on the door while I was turning my key in the lock. "Patience is a virtue, Katie cat," I told her as I slipped inside, closing and locking the door firmly behind me. I could imagine her saying back to me, "You should have told yourself that earlier today when you wanted to feed your boss every computer disk in the office." I scooped her into my arms and sat on the couch, thinking that I would watch the evening news and unwind a little before I gave us both some dinner. I expected the news to be bad as usual. Unfortunately, I wasn't disappointed. Among all the other world chaos, the news announcer spoke of a serial killer in Riverside, California. This upset me, because I had two close friends who had moved out there last year. I knew that I was being a paranoid fussbudget, but I wouldn't feel better until I spoke with Audra and Amanda. Hearing their voices would set me at ease. The phone rang several times on my end before Audra picked up. "Hi, Christy," she said cheerfully. "It's good to hear from you." "It's good hearing you as well," I told her. "I'm glad you're all right." "Everything is fine," she responded. "I heard about that serial killer on the news. They still haven't caught him yet. I was just worried about you guys." "Keep your doors locked tight and be careful," I told her. "They've not caught him yet?" she asked in an annoyed tone. I heard a click that I knew to be Amanda picking up the other extension. "Hiya, Christy," she said happily. "I'm just so glad to hear both of your voices. What with that crazy guy out there right in your town?" I told them, a feeling of relief flooding over me as I settled back on the sofa stroking Katie's fur. "Oh, everything is fine, except that I had a really weird client yesterday, and now my neck really hurts." Audra's voice changed oddly when she spoke of her neck. I can't tell you how it changed. I only know that for some reason it made me shiver. "A weird client?" I asked. "Did you have any trouble out of him?" Audra was a medical massage therapist working out of her home, and I often worried about her living out there in California with all those strange people. "Only briefly," she told me. "He left soon enough." "Be careful out there, Audra," I told her. Then I launched into a litany of what my boss had done to infuriate me earlier. I was interrupted once by a small cry from Amanda. "Oh, my neck, it hurts so." Her voice sounded faint, and it was almost hard to hear her words. "I thought it was Audra's neck that hurt," I said in slight confusion. "Oh, it does," Audra replied. "It comes and goes, you know. It comes and goes." I shivered again and then shut the feeling off, telling myself that I was being crazy. "Sounds like you need a massage, Audra," I said with a little laugh. "And when your own neck feels better, you can take care of Amanda's." "Oh, it isn't that important, really," Amanda said listlessly. "Go on," she prompted me back to my story. "Tell us what happened." "Yeah, tell us what that porcupine of a boss did after that," Audra giggled. I chuckled and continued with my story, glad that my friend sounded normal again. As the conversation progressed, my feelings of unease dissipated. Audra and Amanda always made me laugh, and this chat was no exception. We talked for over an hour. When my stomach began to growl, I ended the conversation with a promise to call again soon. Katie and I ate our dinner and went to bed rather early. This meant that I woke up early enough to catch the 6 o'clock morning news. I will never forget the news announcer's face. It was to become a permanent imprint on my memory. "It looks like the Riverside chopper has struck again. 2 Riverside girls, Audra and Amanda Wiggins, were found in their home earlier this morning by a concerned neighbor who followed a terrible smell issuing from their apartment." A young woman appeared on the screen. I was never to forget her face either. "I live in the apartment across from the sisters, and I could smell something really bad from that direction whenever I came out of my door," she was saying. I was hearing her voice as if from a great distance. Pressing the volume up button on my TV remote control still didn't drown out the roaring in my ears. I felt numb. I couldn't be hearing this correctly. "So I went inside," the girl went on. "Their place wasn't locked or anything, and that made me even more worried for them. I found them in the massage room." She shuddered and began to cry. "Their heads were cut off, and there were flies everywhere." She lifted her hands to cover her face, as though to shut out the vision that must keep playing out in her mind. I lifted my own hands to my face in an unconscious imitation of her. The newscaster came back on the screen. "Medical reports indicate that the sisters were dead for around 3 days. The police are still trying to track down the serial killer who committed these grisly crimes. I'm sure you can understand why I've never told anyone this tale before. Who would believe me? Oh, we've all heard of ghost sightings, but who has ever heard of talking to your dead friends on the phone? Friends who were murdered at least 2 days before the conversation took place."
That was Deadlines, written by Morticia, yours truly, presented by Aunt Tabitha. She has acting skills, so I prefer that she read it, and she did really well. There's nothing like hearing your story presented by someone else. It's great. I had this published a while back, and the publisher went under, and rights reserved back to me, so it's up here now. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will be doing other Spooky Saturday scary stories, presenting them. They are ones that we wrote. We don't have to get them from Reddit because we're also authors. And this story is dedicated to my friend Christy and her cat Katie, and all of you people who, it's also dedicated to the ones who worry a lot when their friends or family members live in a big city or move away, and it's about trusting them to be careful and look out for themselves and do what should be done, and hopefully not let psycho killers into their apartment. This reminds me of the apartment in the story. I wonder if we'll find any decapitated heads inside.